All right. Well, welcome everybody to MVP Office Hours. My name is Jared Kingston. I'm a consultant at Aperio and help put together hours. For those of you who are new to the office hours, just a quick rundown. It's basically, if you could imagine, answers but live over the phone. We have a bunch of awesome MVPs on, which I would ask to go ahead and raise their hands, even though I can pick them out pretty easily. But have some awesome MVPs on to help answer your questions, as well as, if you have some insight, definitely feel free to share that. You don't have to be an MVP to do so. We're here just to help everybody out. So because it is an open forum, we just ask you mute your mic if you're not speaking at the time. That way we don't get any background noise. We can hear questions very easily. So with that said, let's go ahead and just get a rundown of the MVPs we have on the call. And what I'd like this time, I'm going to mix up just a little bit. For the MVPs out there, just state your name and then kind of your area of expertise. If you had to pick one main area, what would that be? And let's start at the top with Mr. Kwong.
I'm Brian Kwong, and I would say expertise would be flow.
All right. Go ahead, Daniel.
Hey, Daniel Hoekst. I guess it would be Force.com development.
Awesome. And a new MVP as of this week, Mr. Mark Ross.
Hi, Mark Ross, and my specialty is also flow.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least, Steve Moe.
I'm Steve Mullis, and my areas of expertise would be probably formulas, like anything like workflow rules, custom fields, validation rules, anything formula related, and maybe a little bit of reports and dashboards.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. All right. Well, with that being said, who wants to kick us off with the first question? Feel free to speak up. You can post in the chat, raise your hand, and we'll try to get to you. Don't be shy.
I've got a simple one, I think. I was putting together some mail merge templates this week, and after I loaded one, I realized I needed to change a merge field. And I went out on help, and it looks like the last stuff was from like 7 years ago. There's not a way to actually edit a mail merge template. It looks like you have to always, upload a new one and, delete the old one. Is that the case, or am I missing something?
Any mail merge template people out there?
I haven't used them in so long, but I think you're right. I think you do have to delete them and add them again.
Okay.
That seems to ring a bell.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe so as well on that. And also just want to point out, we had Rakesh Gupta join us, who's also a new MVP. All right, so we have a question here from Karen. Is there still no resolution for multi-select fields for reporting? And you picked the right call with Steve Moe on here to ask that question.
I know Steve Moe hates multi-select. I know I know everybody hates them, but I'm still waiting for something to happen on those, and doesn't look like there's anything out there yet.
What specifically are you trying to do?
Well, what everybody else wants to do, which is, count each selection as one and then sum them up. Now I've done that by creating my own formula fields for each selection and doing a report on it that way. And in a report, it's not so bad, but there's no way to show it on a stacked graph or anything like that in a dashboard.
I'm trying to visualize what this graph or charts you want it to look like, though. I mean, so are you trying to get, so like using the example, you got a multi-pick list field that's got 4 values in it. Just for the sake of argument, let's just say multi-pick list fields suck. So if somebody selected all 4, is your number field returning the number 4, or do you have 4 separate fields to get the distinct count of times they selected multi, the number of times they selected pick list, the number of times they selected fields, the number of times they selected suck?
The latter. The latter.
Do you have a separate field, numeric field or checkbox field to hold, yes, they selected this option from the list, or do you have one field that just sums up, they picked 3 out of the 4 things, or they picked 5 out of the 10 things?
No, I have a field for every selection on the multi-select that sums
and
what
now,
they...
So you're trying to do... So you're trying to come up with a chart that basically...
I have it in a report. I mean, it's great in a report, but I know I've been all over the internet looking for solutions, and I know very well how you feel about multi-select fields. But
you know what?
I'm just.
But,
go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but Jared, you found an app.
Yeah, I was just looking that up, and I'm pasting it in the chat now.
Okay, yeah, Jared found an app that I didn't really have a chance to dive in and kick the tires, but on the surface, it looked like it solved some of the multi-pick list problems. From what I saw, and don't quote me on this because I didn't really get to kick the tires. But it looked like what they were doing through like Apex or something was converting an existing multi-pick list field into records in a related list, and then like somehow magically querying that related list to get the count.
Oh, okay. I'll try this out because I have not seen that one yet. So that helps. That's good. I'll try that out. It's just all I wanted to do was, instead of, I had my formula field which took the unique values and put them in that bucket for that unique value. And then I wanted to see if I could stack them in a chart to show them in a chart. But right now I'm not able to do that. I'm able to show them in a report and hide the details and show how many times they chose that particular selection, but it's just not, you know how it is. So
yeah.
I'll try this out. I'll try it out. Sounds good. Thank you for the tip.
Those on the phone that are listening in, it's an app by Mars Apps, all one word, MARZAPPS, and it's called Multi-Select Pick List Frequency Reports. So it's free on the App Exchange. It has like 5 reviews and a 4-star average. So check it out if you're looking for that sort of deal. So
it looks pretty capable. The only downside, it looks like it's a snapshot in time. You have to refresh your data. So you can't just run your dashboard and it'll be right every time. You have to run the snapshot and then run your dashboard.
Yeah. And then I can just add on a little bit. I mean, I've taken a hammer to some of this sometimes when you need a report where we've actually added a multi-select. So you have a multi-select on the record, and then have a trigger behind the scenes actually create related records for every selection that's in there, and then you actually report on that bottom one. But I mean, that's when you desperately need it, and you're not afraid of code. So. Yeah, I mean that's so in the long, I would say with the multi-select, the biggest thing to think about is what exactly are you trying to capture, and oftentimes there's other bits of information you might need about it. So instead of doing a multi-select, look at doing a related list, because you might want to know, well, when did that value get added to that record? Who added it? What are some of the other attributes about it? So like if you had a multi-select that said these are the types of services we provide to them, well, you might want to know when did you start providing that service, maybe what the price is. So you might have other attributes, and then you end up turning that multi-select into a full object.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I try to push as much as possible that way as well. That's good. Good info.
Yeah, we only have 2 of them in our whole instance, and I shy away from them like crazy.
Yeah, we actually have another multi-select question here. Similar question from Jessica. She has a multi-select field on the task object, and now has a request that users want to be able to add a time in minutes field. So I would say like a number field, right? That applies to each of the choices. Oof. What's the best way to do this? Anybody want to take a stab at that? Or Jessica, anything you want to add to that?
Okay, you're going to excuse the background noise. We're having a drill here at work. But yes, it's pretty much it. We have a multi-select task record in there where a rep can go in there and discuss what topics they talked about at the visits. And then now they want to be able to say, okay, I talked about this topic for 10 minutes, and I talked about another topic for 25 minutes. And so they want to be able to add like a value to each of the choices that they picked in the multi-select field.
That sounds like custom object to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's custom object. Or how many multi-pick list values are on this menu?
Probably about 12.
Ooh!
Ooh.
Oh, that's gonna leave a mark. Oh, I was gonna say if it was like only 3 or 4, that's not so awful that you could put create a custom field for each of the values, and then have a formula field that sums them. And oh man, 12. Yeah, you're off the custom object land. That would just you don't even want to go down the road of doing it all on the activity object. It's almost like you're really almost crap though, but you can't an activity can't be the master or the parent you can't have an object that's the child.
Yeah, I'm frantically searching. I think the same thing, but I think there's a pilot that I'm looking for, and that's
you almost need to create a line item for each of these actions within the task. And envision your task is now an opportunity, and each of these things that they pick for that task would be opportunity products, and the time would be the quantity or the amount of each of the opportunity line items. That's what you're trying to do, but activities at the present time, you can't create a child object and have it be have a related list on the activity object unless I forget who spoke. Maybe there's a pilot where they are working on something like a custom. You can create a custom object and have it be a related list. I mean that's a real niche-oriented thing that you're trying to do. And 12 multi-pick lists.
I know. I inherited this. I'm just trying to make it work.
Yeah.
I would almost say you got to get out of tasks.
Yeah. I mean, I know you inherited it, but how wedded are they to this process?
Well, we have a group of users who do not use Salesforce very often. They're rarely. In fact, there's a couple of people that are just now coming on. They're just trying to. This is probably the only thing that they actually do in Salesforce. They enter these task visits. So they would have to learn a new process. I mean, not that they couldn't, but they're wanting to have something that they don't have to, they can just pick right up on it and keep moving. That they don't have to have a whole new process.
Yeah. I mean, I've only dipped my toe into the publisher action waters. I mean, I don't know if any of the other guys have done anything. I mean, tasks have chatter enabled in them, so you would have the ability from a task object to launch another task, another event. Maybe you could do something with a publisher action, but I'm really getting out of my comfort zone, and I don't want to give you false hope, that a publisher action that's launched from the task object is going to magically solve your problems when it ends up being a dead end. That's whoever.
Yeah, and you can't actually create an action off of a task in Chatter. You can update a record, or you can use a custom Visualforce action.
You can put a button on there and have flow run.
Yeah, but the issue would still result is you can't have child records.
Yeah, no, you'd have to be housed somewhere else and viewed somewhere else.
Right.
You could theoretically somehow use a flow to update it from the task, but they'd still be stored and displayed somewhere else.
And completely unassociated to the task.
Or Visualforce.
How
I don't know.
have you run any reports on these tasks and seen, like, on average, how many things from this multi-pick list are they picking at a time?
Approximately 5.
5. That's getting beyond the, well, why don't you just clone the activity or create a separate activity for each one of these things that you want to log the time. But 5 is getting, it's like if it was 2 or 3, and if the average was like, most of the time they're just doing 1, that would make it an easier sell. But 5, you kind of are drifting further and further away from, the scenario where, like, just again getting back to the model of opportunities and opportunity products. I mean, for a long time my org didn't use opportunity products, and it was like, well, what are we doing with this? Well, it's just a little niche thing. Just clone the existing opportunity. And that was, a cloned opportunity was the exception, not the rule. But then as we changed our business model, it was like, all right, we can't really ask a rep to create 5 opportunities and manage 5 opportunities. We gotta look at opportunity products. That's where you're headed. It's like 3 is like this magic number. Once you get beyond 3. Users don't want to clone the stuff. They don't want to have to manage 3 separate records for one thing. I hate to say it. You've really been painted into a corner on this.
If you're absolutely married to having to use tasks in those multi-select lists, your real only option is to create a new record type for your task, and then when someone saves a standard task, you have something, be it a flow, an Apex trigger, whatever it is, that basically replicates a new task into that new record type, one for every value that's in that pick list, multi-select pick list, and changes that to a regular pick list. And then you report. That's what you report on. You don't report on the task that the user is actually entering.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't they then have to log the time? They'd have to manually edit each one of those child tasks to enter the time increment, because that's what was driving this whole thing originally. Was like they pick 5 things from that multi-pick list. Now they want to be able to enter 5 different time increments.
Yeah, what I would look at is either. Yeah, I mean, there's really not a good solution. Wherever you're walking down the code land, and probably a really messy.
It almost sounds like you should create a custom object for this type of thing.
And go away from tasks entirely.
Yeah, it's almost like tasks have been over customized in this case.
Is there any way that I can just replace, what would I replace the multi-select pick list with if I could do that? I would have to just create a whole bunch of different pick lists, wouldn't I? And they would either be used or they wouldn't.
Check. I mean, 12 is like that's a lot. I mean, you could have like a row of checkbox fields, and then in the next column you could have a row of time fields. You know, you could. I mean, without getting into Visualforce stuff like that, you could do things with like collapsible sections. So if say of the 12 pick list options, 5 of them are, product, and 5 of them are service, and 2 of them are support. You could take, you could create 3 collapsible sections on your task page layout and put the 5 product checkboxes in one section with the 5 time increments in the right-hand column next to the 5 corresponding checkboxes. And so the user isn't confronted with all 12 checkbox fields and all 12 time fields all at once. They could say, all right, this call was related to product. I'm just going to collapse those 2 sections that don't have any relevance to this call, and now I'm only looking at 5 checkboxes, 5 time increments. Or this call, that's something you could maybe do. Whoever built, I don't know. I don't want to throw the previous admin under the bus, but
I want to.
But when's the next Greyhound?
So I think those are all good options that you can kind of have to explore there.
It also goes to your comfort zone and skill set. If Visualforce is not your niche, or you don't have a Visualforce resource, then a couple of options are not going to be on the table for you. So it's like, are you like me? Are you a declarative admin developer where it's just like I just squeeze as much as I can out of what I can do with a setting and a page layout?
Yes, I'm there. I'm not. I'm fairly new, so I have never built Visualforce pages, and I've done maybe. Actually, I don't even think I've completed one flow. So I'm kind of limited on my knowledge of what I can do.
When people are putting in the time and selecting it, is it when they're completing the task or when they first open the task, or in both situations?
Well, it's probably they go in all at one time. Like they go to the visit with their customer, and when they come back, they create a record saying, yes, I went and visited this particular customer. We talked about these 5 things, 3 things, whatever we talked about, and at this point, that's what it is. And
okay, so it's not like they're putting a reminder task out for them and then they're completing it, filling in the time. It's pretty much they're doing it all at once.
Right. There's nothing to follow up on. They're just wanting basically a record saying that they went and visited this clinic and this is what we talked about.
With that in mind, you can look at the idea of actually doing a time tracker, a custom object. You could do something that basically takes the information that they're putting in and duplicating it, since the task is being closed at the same time that they're entering the data. There's no going back and updating those records that you create on their behalf. You would just have to run into little situations if people are completing a test and then going back and making changes after they complete it. But that would be something you could do with Flow potentially. And I know you don't have a lot of experience with that, but that wouldn't be a too complicated flow. I would imagine you could probably give yourself a few days and figure out how to use it, or use the community and a few people that are on this call that would be happy to try to help you through it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll do that. I'll look into creating something new and trying to get them away from this task at least.
Yeah, I would opt for the custom object first, just to give you the flexibility, because if they're really not using tasks as a way to do follow-up as well as this is what I did, you may want to just go the custom object route regardless, just to have the flexibility in the future.
Okay, great. Thank you for all the suggestions.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. All right, we have another question here in the chat from Karen McWilliams. And her question is there an easy way to show a time period of week after next, so Sunday through Saturday? And I guess, Karen, if you could kind of elaborate a little bit on that. Are you looking on a specific date, or can you provide some more detail there?
Just week after next. We have this week, next week, last week. I know I've done a lot of formula fields for time periods, next month, and right now what I'm doing is I'm using the filter logic to just say not this week or next week and less than 21 days. But that always puts a little extra days on the end that don't need to be there. So, and my boss is OCD, so he's like, I want Sunday through Saturday on there. I guess that's a formula field, maybe, that I put in the criteria of the report, sounds like.
So this is for reports?
Yeah, it's for reporting. It's just to show that a specific time period, and the specific time period they want is week after next. So not this week or next week, but the week after.
A formula number field can be really handy in situations. I've done quite a few answers over the years that have been similar. Like, it's these niche time frames, and having a simple formula number field can be a lifesaver. And and the thing is, it's always there, which is really cool. You can wind up leveraging it down the road a ton of different ways. So it's almost one of those things that there's no harm in creating one, and you never know when or how you'll be able to use it down the road. Cause I think otherwise you're just looking at what you're doing. Some jumping through hurdles with filter logic, next 2 weeks but not next 7 days or whatever it is,
Yeah, and I know that I've created some that say last 6 months or last 14 months rolling to get not a rolling but including all of the month rather than rolling by days. So I'll see what I can do about doing one for week after next. I just got stuck on it.
Is this one particular object that these reports tend to fall on? Is it opportunities, or is it this is just the way he wants to look at everything, so you end up having to do this type of filter gymnastics when he wants a lead report, when he wants an opportunity report, when he wants an activity report, when he wants any kind of report?
Well, it's an ongoing thing that can be used, but we use it primarily for activities, face-to-face meetings. What do the face-to-face meetings look like this week, next week, week after next? What are scheduled, and we like to look at them. They like to look at them in graphs.
Okay. Here's something that if you could kind of push this back on them, depending on the format that they like the report to be displayed to them in. A lot of people, there's an overlooked feature in Salesforce that's really powerful to the users who consume reports, called drill down. If you have a summary or a matrix report, and it's grouped by a field, like in this case, grouped by activity date, and the activity dates in the report are grouped by week. You could say, all right, I want to build me a basic report of the next activity, all the activities for the next 4 weeks, grouped by date, and the dates are grouped by week, or this month, grouped by date, grouped by week. Well, they could just check the checkbox on the week they want to focus on, and click the drill down button.
Yeah, the problem is they want to see a visual of it, and what I do, Steve, is I use the power of one, and on my graphs I have a bar for accounts they're visiting, unique accounts, and face-to-face meetings, how many meetings at those accounts. So I have a blue and a green bar one is unique accounts, one is how many meetings they have at those unique accounts. And it's by person, and they like to see it by person on the bars.
Okay,
accounts,
so they're not,
meetings.
that kind of takes drill down by week off the table.
It does, because they're not going to go they're not going to necessarily, they're going to go in the granular data, but they want to just see it on a graph, click on this week, what's happening this week, click on next week, what's happening next week, that kind of thing. And I hear what you're saying. I mean, it's kind of it's really an easier way to use it, but they want to see it a certain way in a graph. Here's a graph for this week, here's a graph for next week, here's a graph for the week after next.
And when people have an idea of how they want to see stuff, you really got to cater to them. And unfortunately, their needs on how they want the stuff visually displayed is it's overriding drill down.
Hey, can I jump in? Because I think you were saying you had something with your filters, how you're saying the next 21 days but not next week. Did you say that's how you're doing it now? Well, have you tried, did you know that you can also do the next 2 weeks? Like, so in your filter criteria, you can actually use weeks.
Yeah.
So you could
say, so not equal to the next 2 weeks.
Right. But
what I'm having problems with is keeping it. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so like if you want the week after next, so that would be, so I think you would say your date equals the next 2 weeks, and then your date is not equal to the next 1 week. And then that would give you the week after next.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
okay. Wait, say that again so I get that.
So your first, you'd have 2 filter criteria. One would be date equals next 2 weeks, and date not equal to next 1 week. Or next week, I guess. I think you can use either one.
I think you nailed it. I think that, let me try it in my dev org, and I'll try to take a screenshot if I can get. I think you just nailed it right there.
So I don't want the next 2 weeks, though. So date would not be equal to the next 2 weeks.
Well, but you want the week after next, right?
Next.
Mm-hmm.
Just 2 weeks. You want that to me is 2 weeks from this week, but you don't want next week. I think that's I think he's got it.
So the next,
what you want is, okay, think of it this way. Next week is week 1.
Mm-hmm.
The week after that is week 2. You want I mean, this may be just me misinterpreting your requirement, but to me, your requirement is you want week 2, but you don't want week 1.
No, I don't want. Well, I don't want this week or next week. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's got it. I think he's got it, because in his criteria, he's saying, give me the next 2 weeks, 1 and 2, but don't. But from that herd, cull this week and next week. So cull week 0 and week 1.
Okay. So it's so would it be date greater than the next 2 weeks? It would be greater than the.
It'd be equals. It'd be equals for equals for the next 2 weeks. So you only get the next 2 weeks. So the first one will. So if you run it with just that first one, you should get next week plus the week after.
Okay. So date equals next 2 weeks,
and
then date less. What's the next one?
Not equal. So then date not equal to next week.
Oh. Yeah, you probably could be right. Okay.
Jared, I just sent you in the chat a link to all of the date literals that you can use in your filters. You might want to share it, maybe post that back into for everybody to see. But that, you can do things with that, like next. You can do next, next weeks, next months, in months ago. So anywhere there's in that help document, anywhere there's an in, you just put a number and you can get it out. So.
Okay, that makes. I thank you for that. That makes sense to me. Now, Now it makes sense to me. Okay.
Awesome.
I hate logic sometimes. Good, it's all that bleach I put in my hair.
Yeah, I think you were really close with using the days. You just need to switch it to weeks. I think so.
Yeah. Okay. I just didn't realize it was so flexible that way. It's really more flexible than I thought it was. Okay.
Awesome. Steve Mo just posted in the chat as well. All right, so we have another question here, and this question from Steve Lusek. I think I have it. And then, so Steve's question is, for opportunities, I want to be able to report on how long each stage of the opportunity lasted. Any ideas? Anybody want to?
So
I can
this
take
just
that.
Get opened up in spring 14?
I can take that.
Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, go. Welcome.
Thanks. I'm sorry I was late. So right out of the box, there is a default report that says that here's the average number of days that an opportunity has been in a particular stage. But a lot of times you can't visually see that on the screen itself. And so what we do is we create a combination of date fields, workflow rules, and formula fields to visually show that data on the opportunity page layout. So you have to build it out. But basically what you do is when an opportunity is created, you use a workflow rule. First of all, what version of Salesforce are you on, professional or enterprise?
Enterprise.
Okay. So then you can create workflow rules. So the way you work it is when you create an opportunity, you kick off a workflow rule that populates the prospecting stage. Let's say that's the first stage in your opportunity. And then when that stage changes, you date stamp that second date for that next stage to that particular day, and then you have a formula that calculates the difference between those 2 days. And you go and you build that for all the stages. How many stages do you guys have in your opportunity stages?
There's 8.
Okay, so that's not that bad, right? So you go from stage, like a date field for stage 1, date field for stage 2, date field for stage 3. Those all get updated when the reps, change those stages. And you want to make sure that those are read-only so the reps don't go manipulate any of that.
Right.
And then you use formula fields to calculate the differences between those 2 days. And then the very last formula that we create is we add all those days together, which gives you a total timeline we call opportunity velocity for how long did it take for that opportunity from the prospect first stage to the close date.
Okay.
So it's a simple combination of dates, workflow rules, and formulas.
Okay. Yeah, I was actually thinking down those lines, so that just helped clarify it and how I thought I needed to handle it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Thanks, Deepa.
You're welcome.
Okay. Steve Dennis has a question in the chat on using pick lists for responses on the contact object. Do you want to give some additional detail around that, Dennis?
Thank you, guys. So customer has, let's say, 10,000 contacts, six different departments or sub-organizations that need to use the campaign object to do email marketing to one or more of those. In other words, one contact could belong to one of the 7 sub-organizations or 2 or 3 or all of them. And so I need to tag or identify each contact as belonging to, say, organization A, B, C, or D, or F, whatever, 7, 1 out of 7. Would the best way to do that to be to create a 7 checkboxes on the contact on a new contact record for whatever organization to choose which of the 7 suborganizations it belongs to? Or would it be a pick list, or what would be some ideas or suggestions on how to best set up that kind of a model?
I would say create a pick list and associate them, and then what you can do is you can create a list view with that particular pick list for that particular division or organization, and then every contact that meets that criteria then gets assigned to a campaign. Is you already have a filtered list by that pick list value.
Right. So pick list on the contact object?
Mm-hmm. Because even if it belongs to, did you say it belongs to multiple organizations?
Yeah, the contact could belong to 1, 2, 3, or all 7 of these suborganizations, but once it's been set up like that, they don't. The parent organization doesn't want any suborganization to see a contact be able to send. They don't want them to send an email, a marketing email to a contact that they should not be sending it to.
Okay, so the pick list doesn't work there because there is multiple. So one way to do it is to have the checkbox and then use this to filter the list view, because the best way to do it is going to be to have a filtered list view that you use to assign those contacts to a campaign. So that's your main criteria for assignment to a campaign, which is going to be a filtered list that gives you all those contacts. And then checkboxes can be used to filter that list to say, here's all the contacts for Division 1. Here's all the contacts for Division 2. And you do that by using the checkbox.
Right. That makes sense. Thanks, Deepa.
You're welcome.
Awesome, thanks. All right, let's see. We have another question in the chat here. Yeah. Awesome, Steve Mo. Just doing some work on the fly for us behind the scenes, confirming that filter we talked about earlier. So thanks, Steve Mo, for that. All right. Who else has a question? Right now we're no questions in the chat. Anybody with their hand raised? Karen has another question on, is there a free app you would recommend for more robust charts and graphs on Salesforce? Anybody have any thoughts there?
My charts, I just started playing around with my charts from the App Exchange. That helps. One thing I stumbled on with that is you can have up to 6 charts in one row. I know a lot of people have been asking to have like a 4th column on a dashboard or more than 3 columns on a dashboard. And my charts will allow you. I've just been playing around with it. I've got like a tab that's got 6 charts and 2 rows. I'm not sure what the limit is. I know dashboards you're limited to have 20 components. I'm not sure if you can go beyond 20 components with it.
Yeah, that always gets me on the 20. But it also is good because it forces our executive management to stop going insane and keep it simple. So I'll play around with that. Thanks, Steve.
Anybody else have any suggestions there? And then here another question here, changing the default subject on a task so that it shows call.
Well, actually, it shows call now, and what's driving my boss crazy is that we have one guy, and I'm trying to force habit to him to change. He doesn't like to put any subjects in his calls, but he'll put it in as an email, not through, he's got a Mac, so not through Salesforce for Outlook, but he just places the email in there, and the subject says call, and my boss is saying, that's driving me crazy. It should say email. But there, you can't get rid of the default call on there that I could see. It's stuck on there, and I have gone deep into the depths to try to get it out, and that's one thing that it won't let me change. I can change it on other activity layouts, but not that particular default subject line on a task. Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Oh, so this person is using the log a call button?
Yeah, it's log a call.
And the default
history.
subject is call?
Yeah.
I've done some URL hacks, like create a custom button with a URL hack to replace it. Now, one thing I did notice that embedded on the actual page, the word call is in the, whatever. Let me just fire it up. Let's see. Well, I'm in my dev log right now.
It's a small thing, but it's.
I'm gonna look into my. I have the task number that the value behind that it uses. Give me a second. Come on, Evernote. Keep going with what you were talking about, Steve.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's a small thing, but it's one of those little tiny things that drives somebody crazy. And
okay, so you can with a URL hack and a custom button, you can create. I've done this. Like I created a log an activity button that creates a completed task. Just like log. The big thing about log call is it creates a task that's already completed. Because you're sitting at your desk, you weren't planning a call, your client calls you, and you want to log that activity after the fact. That's the real point behind the log a call button. So
right.
I created a custom button that's called log an activity, and it creates an activity that is completed on the day that the button was clicked, and the subject is blank. And it's a required field, so they have to provide what the activity was. Now, what I was getting to was, unfortunately, it's calling in some visual force or whatever that is hardwired to have the word log a call appear next to the little house icon that's in the upper left-hand corner of the task. That I haven't been able to figure out how to override. But my users don't care about it, so I've never really invested the time. The big thing was they wanted to be able to log an activity and have it not default to subject equals call. And with if I can figure out how to do a URL hack, anyone can.
The danger with the
I've
URL
never done
hack.
that before. Actually, I've seen that. I've seen that. I've seen your replies on that before, and I've tried to follow it, but I'm like, I don't even know what a URL hack is. So.
And you should try to avoid them anyways because they're not officially supported by Salesforce, and which means you run the risk of having them break sometime. But you do have access. You could use a Chatter Publisher action, which will do basically the same thing and vastly easier to set up. The downside to that is that the buttons and the Chatter page not on a button someplace on the page layout. The other thing that you can do is you can create a flow that is called from the button that makes it look like you're filling out a task, and then it gives whatever information you want for comments or whatever, and then it has it create a task when they finish it. I would look at those two options before I would consider doing a URL hack, just because they're really not supported.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I went the URL hack road because lazy and not very smart at that other stuff. So yeah, I would definitely go those other routes. And nice thing though, you got options. You get a lot of options.
Yeah, that's true. But on Chatter Publisher, they have to create it out of the Chatter feed, right? Not in the activity history. That's where they would change. That's where they would create their record.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with the Chatter Actions right now, which is why I threw out the flow option, because that would let you click a button to basically open up a page to let them fill something out in.
Okay. Okay.
And that's no visual force required to do that.
Okay. I appreciate it. I had a lot of questions today, so I appreciate you guys. I didn't mean to be a hog, but I appreciate it.
Well, everybody's learning from what you're asking, so it's always a good thing.
Good stuff. Good stuff. We have about 6 minutes left, and we have Dennis has his hand raised. So, Dennis, you want to close us out with a question?
Yeah, just typed it in. Chatter question. Legal department of the client wants every time an end user goes into Chatter, they see this message, Chatter is only to be used for official company business or something like that. And I can't figure out how to do that where it's there like all the time and persistent. I know we can send an automated when a new user gets added to the system, you could of course send them an email template with introductory information about Salesforce and Chatter's only to be used for official business. But in terms of actually being there all the time, any suggestions?
Here's an idea. This is probably not ideal, but you could create an image that has that language and replace the logo that usually shows up in the upper left-hand corner with that text. Because if you're on the Chatter tab, there's no place for you to put that information.
Oh, cool. You're talking about the company logo, where the company logo goes.
Right. But that's the only thing that shows up on every page.
Well, that's on the Chatter app, though, not the Chatter tab. If you go to the Chatter tab, it will still show your company logo.
No, if you replace the logo for the apps that your end users are using, you replace the logo with that text that shows up on regardless of the tab that they're on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that is one solution. But there's no Chatter-specific way of doing it.
Not really. From a group, you could from the individual groups you could post announcements. That's really recent addition, and those are basically sticky things. But that's only in the groups.
Thanks.
Yeah, Brian's suggestion would work as long as you could confine the Chatter tab to the Chatter drop-down, the app.
Well, it doesn't make a difference. You would have to change the logo for every app that your end users use.
Yeah.
So if you have 10 apps, you have to do it for anything that your end users have access to.
Or you could have company name and then in small letters underneath it, Chatter is to be used for something like you could have both.
Yeah, it would technically be there. It would probably be very difficult to read.
True.
But yeah, because there's really no other place to put that information. I mean, especially if it has to be visible if your legal department says it has to be visible whenever they're looking at Chatter. Well, if you look at the Chatter tab, you don't even have the sidebar, so you could even put a component on the sidebar that says that information. That would be another option for you, except for it wouldn't work for where the sidebar is not there, which would be the Chatter tab and a handful of other tabs as well.
So, sorry, the sidebar shows up on all objects or just ones you choose? Or
it shows up on a lot of objects, but it won't show up on the Chatter tab. And there's a few others I don't remember off the top of my head where they don't show up on.
Right.
So it's not a catch-all. I mean, the only thing that's really ever visible is the stuff that's up in the logo.
Yeah.
Or in that header. So and you don't really the only thing you really have control over is what are people's names and what your logo is.
I think that would be no. It wouldn't. It's too. There's not enough space there though.
Yeah, maybe something good to even throw out to the community as well, and see what other people think on that as well.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem. All right, guys. Well, we are up against the hour here, so we'll go ahead and end the call for today. So thanks a lot, everyone, for your great questions, great dialogue, and information. And thanks, MVPs, for being on and helping answering. Everyone have a great extended weekend, and we'll talk to you on the next MVP Office Hours.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Appreciate it, guys. Bye-bye.